14 films that may be lost forever by sourcebrew. Let's see if those movies are interesting or anything. Yeah, let's see. Ooh, it does that little movie sign. Anyways, also please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate it. Let's go.
It's been stated by Martin Scorsese's Film Foundation that half of all American films made before 1950 are lost, and over 90% of films made before 1929 are actually lost forever, which is pretty crazy and upsetting to think about, that a piece of media could be completely lost and will never be seen again, with us only being able to speculate as to its true contents.
Well, nowadays that can't really happen anymore, because, you know, everything is just like digitally. However, I think what is a problem of modern times for movies is going to be the preservation, right? We've all seen it, that things just get worse and worse over time, right? Quality goes down, preservation gets worse, weird aspect ratios, you get the idea.
So today,
Sound quality's horrendous.
I thought we'd take a look at some of these potential cases, as it's hard to always know for sure if a piece of media is truly gone for good. I mean, who knows, there could always be a hidden copy somewhere out there, in an attic or something, just waiting to be found. But in these cases, I think that may be unlikely. So today, we're looking at 15 films that may be lost forever. A Blind Bargain. This silent...
Can already say I've never heard of this, and it's a silent movie. Okay, yeah, I've definitely never heard of this. I wonder how many movies I have upstairs, right, that are on my all on those VHS, like, right, that I have on VHS. I wonder how many movies those are that are just not available anywhere ever. Lon Shady, my love.
A horror film released in December of 1922 was based off a 1897 book titled The Octave of Claudius and starred the famous actor Lon Chaney. The plot of the film was about a doctor played by Lon Chaney who would do experiments in an attempt to extend human life. However, one of his test subjects, who was sort of a half-ape, half-man hybrid, or hunchback I guess, would wander around his...
The humanzi? The fucking humanzi. Monkey and human. Chimpanzee and human, whatever.
...his house, or something. Then the doctor performs experiments on this
Yeah, that's very close to a monkey. And a human. Very close. Very close. Wait, you can't even see it properly. That guy here. Very interesting. Anyways.
Random writer character named Robert. And then he, like, cures the writer's mom's illness, but then there are more ape men and they end up killing the doctor, and the writer guy marries a girl and then writes a book about the whole thing. Yeah, it's kind of a strange plot synopsis when you just hear it like that, right? I mean, we have no footage for this thing. But apparently people liked it, and it got generally favorable reviews from critics for both the performances and the cinematography. However,
that means, like, if we know that, that means we have the reviews. It's like crazy that we have the reviews, but we don't have the original source. That's kind of sad. That's kind of sad, right? Then again, the reviews are written, right? Most likely back then. So that makes sense that these would be probably easier to be preserved. But yeah.
However, the original negative was most likely destroyed in 1931, and the only other remaining prints of the film are thought to have been destroyed in the 1965 MGM vault fire. So now only stills, posters, and a script exist from this film.
Wait, if we have a script, I'm not saying we should, but we could reenact the movies potentially to just have the stories being on film, but it wouldn't, of course, it wouldn't be the same.
Ari Rang. I'm sorry, I have no idea how.
Ooh, a Japanese one. I wonder
How to pronounce this name, but this was a Korean film released
Never
in
mind.
19...
Korean, I'm just straight up blind. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah. The letters. At this point, I can't keep them apart, obviously.
And was one of, if not the first Korean feature film. And from what we know of the plot, it sounds very dark, especially for when it was made. The film was about a young man named Young Jin who starts to lose his mind after being captured and tortured by Japanese police after his
Well, Japanese are still involved, though. Interesting. Well, I'm not quite wrong. The movie's Korean, but Japanese are still involved, so I'm not fully wrong. It appears. Funny. Someone had restored London After Midnight with AI. It looks good. I haven't watched the whole thing. Ah, yes. Well, that's interesting. Interesting.
Protest of the occupation of Korea. And his sister ends up being assaulted by another character who is a pro-Japanese collaborator.
Obviously, right, that I would assume that would have been, right, the statues of the women. The comfort women. Yeah, that what it was in Korea. So this movie includes that, essentially.
And in a rage, Young-jin kills him with a sickle and is taken away by Japanese police. However, the film is thought to have been lost forever during the Korean War. However, there was a rumor that in 2005, the film was in the possession of a Japanese collector who had recently passed away. But that claim has never been substantiated, and the film has still never been found.
Okay, even Korean lost media. Again, I wonder how many movies will be truly lost between the transitioning between VHS and DVD.
The Big City. This is another lost Lon Chaney film, this time released
Seems like Lon Chaney has a lot of movies that are gone.
Back in 1928 as a silent crime film, which was about the character Chuck Collins, who steals jewels from a nightclub and is subsequently tracked down by police and another gang that was trying to steal the jewelry. Sadly though, this film...
Don't come and steal my jewels. Interesting. Okay, that movie's also gone. Seems like, again, this mostly obviously hits movies from the silent era, mostly. I'm assuming. And then also, like, very, very niche movies.
Was also lost in the MGM Vault Fire of 1965, as all 8 reels of the film were destroyed. However, there is a short trailer which has been found, although it does not actually contain any scenes from the movie itself.
Then that's kind of pointless then, right? That's kind of pointless then. That's kind of pointless then. Yeah, that Vault Fire probably has, like, absolutely obliterated a lot of peak movies. That's why I find Lon Chaney such a fascinating person. He plays so many different roles. I can't think of any of other actors like that nowadays, or even back then. Yeah.
Convention City. This 1933 comedy film was very controversial and notable for its sexual humor and even nudity that was shown.
Okay. So we got that going too, huh? We've got that going too. Okay. So we got a little nudity, but a little lewd movie. But yeah. Okay, let's see.
In the film, and is actually the reason for the implementation of the Hays Code, which was made to censor sexual and violent content in films. And upon release...
Yeah, apparently that is not a thing anymore because kind of every movie nowadays has an unsolicited sex scene. So anyways.
The film was heavily censored and even banned in many places, with some theaters showing the film going as far as to destroy their copy of it for corrupting morals. And apparently Warner Bros., who had produced the film, got rid of their print of it, as it posed a fire hazard in their archives due to it already beginning to deteriorate. However, since so many copies were made, it's possible that one might still exist. However, none have been found as of yet, although over 200 stills, as well as a script and even some stock footage have been found. The Crowd Roars. This 1932 film starred James Cagney as Joe
Interesting. Is it the racing movie?
Greer, a race car driver who is competing in an exhibition race. He also mentors his brother Eddie, however for some reason this strains both of their relationships with their girlfriends. Then some other guy dies in the race and Joe blames himself and can't continue, but then his brother Eddie ends up winning. Pretty basic plot, right?
That looks so silly without that. That looks so silly, right? The footage is running in the background while homie's just like sitting in whatever, right?
Well, the weird thing about this movie is that it was remade in 1939, only 7 years later, and was titled Indianapolis Speedway. But they wanted to use shots from The Crowd Roars, the original film, and so they removed scenes from the original negative to use in the remake.
Interesting. So here's something interesting. We should probably, it's like hard, right, to reenact movies that you do have the script off. Because, well, nowadays, right, you can put the script online, so it should be fine. Also, I'm going to straight up say this. How the heck are women in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on much more attractive in movies? I've just noticed that. Anyways, I know James Cagney's name. Don't think I've seen him in any movies. Okay.
They later then tried to re-edit those scenes back into the original film, but that ended up adding scenes from the new film, and so any footage that was not used in this new re-edit of the original film was lost, and so the original version is most likely gone for good.
Damn, so they remaked it right 7 years after. Interestingly enough, hey, are they modern game game devs nowadays?
Daibutsu Kaikoku, also known
This time it's a Japanese one.
as the giant Buddha statues travel through the country. Quite a mouthful. But this is actually one of the earliest kaiju films ever to be made in Japan.
Interesting, it's a kaiju movie because they have class. True.
Releasing well before Godzilla, all the way back in 1934. The film is about the giant Buddha statue, or Daibutsu, that comes to life, and at a staggering 33 meters in height, begins to, like the title says, just tour the country, with the statue even flying to Tokyo. Although not much else is known about the actual plot of the film. But it was planned to be a series of films. However, the first one...
Interesting. I would have watched that, legit, because it's a kaiju movie and I love kaiju movies.
One was only shown in a few theaters around Japan, before its only copy was destroyed in World War II, and now only a few images exist. However, in 2018, the film was rebooted as The Great Buddha Arrival, and was released in Japanese theaters. The Eagle's Eye. Back in 1918, there was a 20-episode silent film serial titled The Eagle's Eye, which was based on real events, which centered around the First World War and a German agent who came to America who attempted to damage the supply shipments from America to its allies, and would attempt to do this through espionage, before being caught by a man named Francis Burke. And unfortunately, it's thought that the negatives of these serials were housed in the Paramount Studios vault and may have been destroyed in one of two fires.
Interesting. Based on real events, huh? What one? Okay.
Those taking place in the 1930s and 60s. Although it's possible that some of the episodes of the serial may have survived, possibly in Europe, although none of them have ever been seen since release. Humor Risk. This is a lost silent short film by the Marx Brothers released in 1921, and is notable for being their first ever movie.
Okay, so we even include short movies here. Not bad, okay.
However, they weren't a breakthrough success until their 1929 hit, The Coconuts. And so, not at all much is really known about this film, although it's thought that it might have been a parody of another film called Humoresque, released in 1920. And it's been stated that one of the brothers, Groucho Marx, destroyed the only copy of the film that ever existed. However, some do believe that the film may...
Bro was really done and was like, yeah, we cannot show this ever again. Destroy it. I'm questioning what goes through your mind if you destroy a movie. Like, you destroy a copy. Interesting. I guess it was an accident, probably.
still be out there. The Life of Nephi. Based on the first Nephi from the Book of Mormon.
Interesting! Wait, that's a color movie? Is that a remake? What is that? Huh? How?
This film was produced in Salt Lake City, Utah, and was shown in theaters there in 1915, and was made to help promote the aspects of Mormon beliefs.
Yeah, that cannot be a color movie. I'm assuming these are figurines, something like that? Life of Poke? That'd be a very sad and depressing movie.
After its short run in 1915, however, the film has not been seen since, and it's thought that, like many of the other silent films, it's lost for good, possibly due to corrosion, as was commonplace at the time. However, many stills have surfaced from the film.
Stills, but isn't that just a picture? Isn't that just a photo?
The Mountain Eagle. The second ever film of Alfred Hitchcock, this silent short film released in 1926, and is the only...
Alfred Hitchcock, that is a name I am familiar with. The Birds? Didn't he make that movie? That is definitely a name, though, I am very familiar with, somehow.
Only one of the director which is lost. And it's not even entirely known what happens in the film, as there are several different accounts that vary from one another. But the basic premise is that a school teacher in a small village named Beatrice is forced to leave after she refuses to have sex with this guy who's like the leader of the village, and his son, who was with her and sees this, leaves the village as well. Then Beatrice meets some guy called Fear O' God. Yes, that's his name, I guess. So her and that guy get married, and then the village leader has Fear O' God arrested for killing his son or something because he's missing? Then he breaks out of prison a year later, but Beatrice is now sick, so he comes back to the village, and the leader guy is like shot or something, but then the son also comes back, and then yeah, everyone's cool with each other. The end. Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, it was
surprisingly a happy end. Okay. You made... I think you mean Psycho and The Birds. I went to see it. Sounds like a bad, funny movie. Okay.
not a success and was panned by critics, with even Hitchcock himself saying later that it was, quote, a very bad movie. And the film today...
It was a very bad movie. He said it. It was a very they said it. It was a very bad movie.
...is still lost, with there said to be no surviving reels of it.
Look at this. All of them have receding hairlines. Anyways.
Only a lobby card as well as some stills have ever been found, and Hitchcock has even gone on to say that he was not sorry that the film was lost.
Well, why would you be sorry? It was your bad movie. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Nobody Ordered Love. This one is pretty surprising because it's not that old. The film was released in 1972 and was about the filming of...
How the fuck do you lose a movie in 1972? The fuck? Yeah, that's what I said with, like, some modern movies are still easy to lose pre-internet.
...of a World War I movie called The Psalm. However, the film didn't get too much attention, and when it was released, it was panned by critics. And it was actually so bad that apparently, according to one of the lead actresses, Ingrid Pitt, the director, Robert Hartford Davis, would take the film out of circulation and even ordered the destruction of all prints of it upon his death, which took place in 1977. And since then, a few stills have been found, as well as the script for the actual movie and the fake one, which was part of the plot of the film. However, it's unlikely that the actual film itself will ever resurface.
Imagine a movie so horseshit, right? You order the destruction of it. Imagine if Godzilla 1998 was lost. That would be a dream. Unfortunately, it's online everywhere, so you cannot escape it. That movie, unfortunately, will survive time.
Spider-Man vs. Kraven the Hunter.
Wait, there's an actually lost movie, Spider-Man vs. Kraven the Hunter? That is insane. That's wild. Okay, I'm curious.
Shout out to All Things Lost, he did an entire video on this, but basically Spider-Man vs. Kraven the Hunter was a short fan film created by students of New York University in 1974, and was
Interesting, even a fan film, okay.
therefore not officially licensed by Marvel, although Stan Lee himself did personally approve of the project. The film adapted The Amazing Spider-Man issue 15 and concerned Spider-Man facing off against, you guessed it, Kraven the Hunter. However, after it was made, it was never distributed commercially due to complications with licensing rights, although the film would be screened occasionally at conventions throughout the years, with the last known screening taking place in 2005 in LA. And unfortunately, since the passing of Bruce Cardazzo, who directed the project, the film has not been seen since, and he was thought to have the only copy of the film on his personal computer and was reluctant to give it out. And sadly, his computer was reportedly destroyed, so the film may very well be lost forever.
Yeah, that movie's definitely gone. Like, gone.
Saved from the Titanic. This is a very strange case, and honestly it's deserving of its own video. But basically this film was the first about the Titanic tragedy and was released on May 14th, 1912, 29 days after the incident. 29 days.
Well, somebody was really sweaty in making sure that, that movie goes out there, it just goes out there. That somebody was undeniably on a mission to get this done. Yeah, it makes sense. Interesting. It's like somebody making essentially the equivalent of somebody making a YouTube video immediately after a tragedy. Anyways, same energy. Interesting.
And also, very strangely, it actually starred one of the real Titanic survivors, who even went as far as to wear the same outfit that she wore on the ship that day. It was a silent short film and was only about 10 minutes long, incorporating various pieces of stock footage of ships and icebergs, and was filmed in less than 1 week. And yeah, it was successful apparently, but unsurprisingly it was criticized as well for commercializing a disaster way too soon. Apparently also it was the final film that Dorothy Gibson, the actual survivor, appeared in before suffering a mental breakdown, which some attribute to her having to relive her experiences on the Titanic. The film itself only had a few prints which were all most likely destroyed in the eclair.
Can we argue that this movie has a body count now? Essentially? Can we argue that? That essentially is the case? This movie has a body count. Movie 1. Woman 0.
Studios fire in March of 1914, and all that remains from the film are a few stills.
Okay, number 1, let's see. James Cameron would have loved this movie. Nah, there's no blue women in there.
Greed. Greed.
Okay, let's see these. Greed is by Erich von Stroheim. This is where I learned about him. He wanted a lot of his movies to be really freaking long. Hollywood didn't let him do this. He was a bit insane. Okay.
This is a very interesting case, as it is recognized by many as one of the greatest films of all time, despite it being both a commercial and critical failure upon release in 1924. However, this version that was shown was not the entire film, at least not the full version. In fact, the original cut was somewhere around 8 hours long, taking up over 40 film reels. But by the time the film had actually been released, it had been cut down to just 140 minutes, although eventually a 4-hour cut was made in 1999 in an attempt to use some of the footage that still remained, although a lot of the scenes had already been lost by that point. However, the original cut, the 8-hour version, has only been
So the 8 hour is he talking about the 8 hour version? Because I'm pretty sure that one's gone permanently.
screened one time in January of 1924 and was seen by only 12 people, although many of those people claimed that it was the greatest film of all time and that it may never be topped. And it's become one of the most sought after films because of this. However, it's been thought that a lot of those scenes that were cut are now lost forever, although there have been rumors that copies of the full film are still out there, such as one which was confirmed to be in the possession of Benito Mussolini at some point. However,
Ain't no way. Ain't no way Mussolini had the copy. Well, if Mussolini genuinely had a copy, I think people would have found it by now.
that copy, as well as any others of the original version, have never seen the light of day since its only showing.
There's even Lost Anime. Lost Anime Iceberg, an hour and 60 minutes. Now we good. Interesting. So, pretty much, I've seen the 2 hour. It was really freaking good, but you can tell something is missing. Yeah, I'm assuming that obviously it's incomplete. Maybe people didn't like it because of that, because it was incomplete, right? You didn't get the full vision because, well, it probably very likely didn't properly conclude either. Yeah. Anyways, very interesting. Yeah, these movies are gone probably, I'm assuming. If they do pop up, that'd be cool. But I think they're gone. Especially the essentially first kaiju movie. That means the Japanese already had an obsession with big monsters. Or Buddhas. Interesting. Okay, not bad. Anyways, like, comment, and subscribe.